It's starting, Tasia.
Okay. Good to
Go ahead and
go.
go. Good to go.
Awesome. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining the Alpine's April webinar series. So this year we are doing it with partners. So every month we have a different partner joining our meeting and then talking about our good partnership and also different things outside on the topic that we wanted to discuss. And thinking of April being a green initiative month across the globe, and Earth Day is also there across, and it's coming soon in one day. And then we wanted to talk about what are the different things that in a distribution center that you can do in order to contribute to the environment and also to the future generations out there. So this session is going to be talking about 5 ways to green an existing distribution center. So let's get started. Oops. A couple of housekeeping things before we jump on. Please use the chat button for any questions that you have. We can answer those questions at the end of the presentation. And then we have the poll questions popping out also. So feel free to answer these poll questions. We will discuss the questions at the end, discuss and see the answers at the end of the presentation. And the presentation will also be uploaded on the website and the YouTube channel, Alpine YouTube channel. Please feel free to go ahead and visit it if you have missed the session or some of your colleagues or peers wanted to review it. Content is taken from different sources available online and from experts that have spoken across the globe. And we have our 3 presenters today. So myself, Hemateja Ari, I go by Teja. I'm a data engineer at Alpine Supply Chain Solutions. And one of my keen interests is across the green initiatives in the globe and sustainability aspects on how the future generations are going to be and different kind of things that you can do in order to eliminate the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. And we have 2 other hosts, presenters for this meeting. So John Cooper, I would like him to introduce himself. John, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, hi, John Cooper, president of Guide Lighting, 38-year veteran of the lighting industry, and thanks for the opportunity to speak to all of you about ways we can make your facilities more energy efficient.
Thank you, John. We're so excited to see you on the presentation. So many insights from you going forward. Jim Randazzo is also here. He's also one of our partners from PackSmart. I'll ask him to introduce himself. Jim, can you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, good afternoon, Jim Randazzo. Again, I'm also 38 years at PackSmart. John and I have that in common, and we sell all facets of packaging equipment and supplies and many sustainable options.
Nice. Thank you, Jim. We are here to know more about different packaging options and different reduction in the waste that is being generated, one of the biggest things in the warehousing and supply chain industry. Thanks for being on board. So going on into the topic, the first thing I want to talk about is sustainable living. This is where I start off. Why is it important and what is in it for us? Sustainable living. Living in a way that satisfies our basic needs for food, water, and shelter without harming the environment or jeopardizing the future generations' access to the critical resources. So we try to use what we can instead of just using more than what we need and saving this and not harming the environment outside so that the future generations can live on. So this is a critically important aspect that this generation has to take care. So why is it important and what is in it for the logistics industry and supply chain? If you look at some of the statistics out there, 5.5 to 13% of the global greenhouse gas emissions are caused by logistics in the supply chain. So that's not a small number, it's a huge number. If you look at the pie chart on the right side, transportation contributes to 29%, industries contribute to 30%, and buildings contribute to 41%. And this is just the United States. That's how much number of emissions are being emitted into the atmosphere. So the two most significant categories are transportation and warehousing. And if you look at environmental impact, what it's making, according to International Energy Agency, logistics contribute to 7% of global CO2 emissions across the globe. But if you look at just United States, it's almost a quarter of the carbon emissions is coming through transportation itself. So that's a huge number, which we in the supply chain industry are emitting it. And some of those things that you have to keep in mind is there is also resource depletion, like all the supply chain and transportation is consuming fossil fuels, water, land across the global shipping industry. And if you look at some numbers, 250 million tons of fuel is being consumed across a year. And it is expected to rise by 50% by 2050. So there is a lot of emissions that the supply chain is emitting into. So the more the CO2 is emitted into the atmosphere, the more the weather changes, the more the temperatures and everything is that's what we're seeing right now, right? So it is important that we have to take a critical action at the right time so that we have a better generations going forward. The last topic is also the social welfare. So wherever there are DCs and wherever there are trucks, there is a lot of emissions, and there are communities across the distribution centers and warehouses. They are also being affected by health issues due to emission of different kind of gases. So there are different things that they are being affected. So taking action as the right is critical. Carbon footprint. We spoke about emissions, CO2 is being emitted, and what are different companies are doing, and what are the different things that we should start doing. Companies are setting goals. They're saying we are going to eliminate all the carbon. We are going to be net zero emissions by so and so. They're having specific targets like 50% of our emissions are going to be eliminated and 30% by so and so years. So what are companies actually doing to eliminate these strategies? They're investing in renewable energy sources, improving energy efficiencies like lightings or different kinds of energy efficiency initiatives, reducing waste, eliminating the plastics, using paper as an alternative, or having different kinds of circular economy where there is no waste generated, and also promoting sustainable transportation, which is a critical part. As we saw, there is a lot of emissions coming out of the transportation. And setting goals to reduce carbon footprint can also have financial benefits. We are doing all of this. What is in it for me? What am I getting in return? So you reduce your energy costs, so you're seeing the savings in your business, increasing your operational efficiency. You're also improving your brand reputation, which is a crucial factor. Some of the top companies that you see having brand reputation are showing a lot of change in terms of talking about sustainability and those setting the goals that they have set. And you also increase your customer and staff loyalty. Two things that you have to note here is collaborating with your suppliers, customers, and other stakeholders can play a crucial role. So if you order something on Amazon, it will give you two different options. One, you get a delivery by Thursday, which is the fastest. And if you want it a low carbon delivery, you get it by Friday. So including your customers and also showing them that you are contributing something to the environment. If you're okay to get a one-day delivery late, it's going to be low carbon delivery. It's important. So companies are coming up with alternative ways in order to include all of them. Companies that are leaders in sustainability, such as those that set ambitious carbon reduction goals, are more attractive to customers, investors, and potential employees, and they enjoy a competitive edge across the market. That's fact. We have seen it. So this is a small graph that you can see what different companies are doing out there in terms of their setting goals and everything. So by 2040, there are two to three companies. You see most of them, and then there are by 2030 and between 2030 and 2040. If you want me to name one company that is going beyond and above, is Microsoft. So Microsoft have said there are a lot of carbons that they have contributed from the beginning of the company in 1970s. They have set their goals by 2030. They are going to be net zero. Not net zero, it's negative carbon. So it's not even zero, less than the zero. They are going to be negative carbon by 2030. And by 2050, they are going to take out all the emissions from the atmosphere that they have contributed by the company, like using of electricity or in any other manners in the atmosphere. So that's a great initiative, and they're also funding $1 billion into the fund in order for the companies to come up with different ways of taking out the carbon from the atmosphere that they have already emitted. So Microsoft is going beyond. I'm not saying that the other companies are not doing it. They are also having their different ways of doing it. Moving on, talking about 3 different emissions. So when you talk about emissions, the first thing that you have to know is what are the different kinds of emissions that you have: SCOPE-1, SCOPE-2, and SCOPE-3. These are the 3 different kinds of emissions. So SCOPE-1 emissions are direct emissions, SCOPE-2 is indirect emissions, and SCOPE-3 is indirect emissions. So we look at some of the points of what is SCOPE-1 and where is it coming from. SCOPE-1 emissions refer to direct emissions. These are being controlled by the company, such as emissions from on-site combustion of fossil fuels or transportation of your vehicles and everything. So requiring companies, so companies have to report on every yearly basis all their SCOPE-1, SCOPE-2, and SCOPE-3 emissions. But companies are only doing SCOPE-1 as of now, and some fewer companies are doing SCOPE-2, and SCOPE-3 is the toughest part, but many companies are not doing it. SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission, aims to increase transparency around companies' use of fossil fuels and other carbon-intensive practices to encourage them to transition into cleaner energy sources. So SEC is taking steps to make regulations and mandatory to companies have to report all of their SCOPE-1 and SCOPE-2 emissions by 2030. You're not only just reporting it, you should audit it and then submit them. So there is a lot of change coming in. So make sure you know what SCOPE-1, SCOPE-2, and SCOPE-3 emissions are. The SCOPE-1s are direct emissions. SCOPE-2 is indirect emissions from the combustion of purchased electricity. You purchase electricity, you purchase heat, you purchase steam, all different kinds of things. So these are all the consumption that these are indirect emissions that's coming out from SCOPE-2 from your company. So requiring companies to report these SCOPE-2 emissions will provide greater visibility into their energy consumption that you are having, and also help you identify the opportunities to improve your energy efficiency and moving on to the renewable energy sources like solar panels, wind turbines, where you can provide. There are a lot of incentives that you can get when you have solar panels and anything, tax incentives as well. So keep looking into those opportunities as you dig down into the SCOPE-2 emissions. SCOPE-3 emissions, this is very important. SCOPE-1 and SCOPE-2 just contribute to 5% of your company emissions, even though SCOPE-1 is direct and SCOPE-2 is indirect. But SCOPE-3 is almost 95% of the company's emissions, which is indirect, and it's coming from the value chain of the company, including emissions from suppliers, customers, and waste disposal. So all different stakeholders like the customers and everyone is involved in the SCOPE-3 emissions that they're emitting when they're working to your company. So reporting SCOPE-3 emissions is particularly important, and nowadays companies are not doing it, but in the future it's going to be mandatory. In 2022, SEC has brought some regulations to companies should start reporting out their SCOPE-3 emissions and also reducing them by 2040 and so. So there is a huge change coming up. So the last thing, SCOPE-1, SCOPE-2, and SCOPE-3 are 3 different kinds of emissions that you have to know. SCOPE-1 is a direct emissions, SCOPE-2 and 3 are indirect emissions. Moving on to the current topic is the 5 different things, what we think across our. First one is install energy efficient lighting, investing in your renewable energy, improving insulation and ventilation. And the 4th and 5th is use of eco-friendly packaging and implementing the recycling program. So you're eliminating all the waste. So we'll talk about these 5 different topics. We have our 2 more presenters, John Cooper and Jim Randazzo, also talking about some of those topics. So we'll get started going on to what are the 5 different ways. The first one is install energy efficient lighting. So we have John here, who is into lighting and everything in the past 38 years. I'll ask him to talk more about these lighting opportunities. John, over to you.
Thank you very much, Teja. So again, just to introduce myself, John Cooper, been in this industry since 1985. And during the course of my career, started and built 2 manufacturing companies in lighting. One was primarily an automotive supplier. The second was in commercial and general lighting. And so I have a long history of this. I've seen where LED is developed from and where it is today. Obviously, it's pretty apparent that efficient, very good lighting that's set up correctly obviously improves the work environment. It makes it safer. It makes it easier to do the daily steps that your employees are doing. It obviously increases safety. And we've even done some applications, very specific niche kind of applications with overhead cranes and things like that. So lighting is important. I don't think anyone would contest that. If you do it right with LED and controls, you can really mitigate a lot of costs, save a lot of energy. And of course, it gives you the opportunity to look at things that have improved over time, whether they be led by ASHRAE or others. And then even if you implement it with controls, you can actually have the controls talking to other devices in your facility, such as conveyors and other types of equipment. So there's just a heck of a lot of things that have occurred in lighting as it got digitized over the past. Now it's started in 2003 with the invention of the white LED, which was basically a phosphor from Nichia that turned a blue LED into a white LED. But that product didn't actually get commercialized probably to about 2010, and really good product didn't come into the market until about 2012. So we're about 10 or 11 years into the adoption of LED lighting for all types of applications. Next slide. So as I said, in work environment, it's critical. I mean, people get injured, people are, their efficiencies are poor. If these, just like this picture showing you, a poorly lit area. And there's also obviously the health reasons to your employees. They don't know what bad lighting is. And over the course of my 38 years, I've been in a lot of facilities and I've seen a lot of really bad environments. So it's important people's morale, safety, security needs good lighting. Next slide. So there are the Illumination Engineering Society talks about light levels and what's apropos for different types of facilities, whether it be warehouse or industrial. We always talk to the clients about what they'd like to see. And our goal is to actually give you a lot of headroom through control. So you actually have an environment that can be flexible. You can have different lighting standards throughout the plant or the warehouse. So we'll take this next step about how we do this. Obviously talked about safety, very clear and apparent to people. You just have to light these facilities correctly. And I can't believe how many facilities I've been through where it's dangerous. And it really takes a lot to get people to begin to see that. Again, productivity, what happens when people, your employees are working less efficiency, they're counting wrong, they're packing wrong. There's still a lot of manual labor in most of the warehouse industrial packaging environments. And then of course, they themselves may not want to be there if it's a bad environment, at least from a lighting perspective and a safety perspective. And again, you know, low-hanging fruit. This is not a new concept to the people on this webinar. LEDs here. The question is, how are you going to implement it and what are you going to implement? We've now had it out there long enough to see good, successful installations and projects, and then ones that were a little bit flawed. Next slide. So we talked a little bit about controls in general. We do very few projects today that don't have controls built into them, whether they're built into the fixtures, whether they're ancillary to the fixtures. And the good thing that's happened with controls is they've come down in price a lot. So they really do save you money, and they're worth putting in. There's been a lot of industry testing on this and data. So people always ask, what do I save if I put in controls? Well, there's something called the Design Lights Consortium. And generally speaking, in a warehouse environment, if you put a control on a fixture, you're reducing your energy another 47%. And the great thing about it is the data is there for you, whether you're tying to a building management system. Most facilities don't even have them. So here you can get that data without a building management system. Next slide. So here's a beautiful, clean warehouse. Let's get to the, so my unique, next slide, I'm sorry, Tasia. My unique take at this for our company is I've built product in 2 different applications, done thousands of projects. And so what's important for our company is to make sure we're selecting the right product. It's the best, it's energy efficient, it has easy to use controls, it has long life. And then through some of our techniques, we're fitting it into the environment that we're trying to purpose it for. Next slide. So here's wanted to show you something really simple. Here's what controls have come to. You basically have a lighting fixture, a round high bay fixture, and that sensor in the middle is essentially a plug and play sensor. And what it does at a very low cost is it allows you to group fixtures together and start to control them in groups. That's what we call network lighting. So you can have an independent control on a fixture. It's not talking to the next fixture. You don't want to do that. That's not how lighting works. You want to have groups of lighting reacting together in the scene and in the area that you're doing. And the other thing that happens is it lets you basically control wattages in certain areas. You can do it on a schedule. You can do it with a motion event. And now today with color selectable product, you can actually literally have 3,000 color temperature, warmer light in certain areas. Let's say you're doing task lighting in a low height area for people doing small assembly. Well, you probably want to do that with a warmer light. In a warehouse, cooler, 5,000K makes sense. So all of this is available to clients today, and it's really fantastic, and it's really evolved over the last 5 years on the control side. Next slide. So how do we do it? Well, first of all, we need your facility. So the bottom line is when we come into your facility, we're going to look at, and these are the services we offer. We're going to do a full lighting audit, and it's going to be an inventory of what you have, how's it performing, and what I mean by performing is what kind of output are you getting as far as foot candles and lighting, what's wattage is it drawing. We're going to specify a product, and then we're going to go into the solution side. We're going to specify the right product for each area. Sometimes we're brought in where people have done this already, and then they want some kind of value engineering to it. So again, I have a unique experience manufacturing product over the last 38 years. So my people are geared to how do you really put the right and best solutions in. We direct source our product from plants. I won't get into a long litany about what the lighting industry is, but then generally it's very layered between distribution, reps. That just adds cost. So we really want to get down to the factory level and buy at basically the world is flat today. So we want to basically buy something flat and deliver it to our customers with the least amount of steps in place. We use turnkey auditing software. So when I say we come into your plant and we count and we do all this stuff, well, it has to go into some format that we can actually solution after it and then provide you with what this solution will cost and of course what its return will be to you. Our team is full. We have master electricians. We don't farm out install. So at the end of the day, we're the same people. Our crews are the people that are in there. Again, the world is flat. We don't want to add a lot of layer of cost. So we'll come in and do turnkey meaning bring in the dumpsters, remove the existing fixtures, recycle the existing fixtures, put up the new fixtures, the whole litany. We work with your team, but at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we're not causing you a burden while we're doing this. And of course, there's a lot of incentives out there that have been incentives for years. So our job is to make sure we look at all available incentives. And this is not a tax credit. We have people that can handle that for you, but this is literally direct money you'll get. And it's important because I'll tell you that if you put a simple control in an application, you'll get $25. If you put network controls, which don't cost any more money, you get a kilowatt savings. So you get potentially a big, well, not potentially, you get a bigger incentive depending on the locale and the utility. Jim's from Chicago, one of the best incentive places in the country for network lighting controls. So it is utility based. Next slide. So let's just go through the steps. We talked about a physical audit, photometrics, incentive, ROI, and implementation. That's our approach. We need your facility to basically be able to provide you with what the project would look like, what it would cost, what the return would be. And by the way, most of the time, no one's ever done this for you. And the reality is they're normally not very complete. And sometimes they put things in there that don't give you. So you as a person paying a utility bill really don't know how much energy cost is related to lighting. So our job is to show you that. Next slide. So especially with Alpine, we've done a lot of projects where they brought us in because they're doing layout changes in a particular facility. So on that side, we'll get the audit information because we're going to be moving things around or removing things, but we also, as you see in this layout, this is the basis of a photometric study. Next slide. So the photometrics, the key to telling you what you had and what you will save and what the output will literally be a photometric study. So once we've got your layout of an idea of your plant, then we go in and say, do we do a 1-for-1? Do we remove fixtures? Do we add fixtures? But do we add lower wattage fixtures to get you a better blend of lighting? The key things to focus here is the two things that we're fighting, pushing for is a good average based upon what the use of the facility is. So this, when I say you see average, it means average foot candles. So that's 55 foot candles in the warehouse you're reading there. The next key that we do when we're doing a photometric study is to build as tight a min to max as possible. Because one thing that happens with the human eye is it likes a level, even lighting. So if you have a lot of hot spots, a lot of really super bright areas, and a lot of areas that are poorly lit, it doesn't like that. And so someone could come in and say, I've got 80 foot candles for you. Focus on that, but you've got hot spots and cool spots. You want to blend it even light. So the photometric study is not to be underestimated. It's really our chance to either relay out your facility or use it as is if someone's done a good grid layout. And by the way, the one factor there is we don't really want to move around lights because we may have to add conduit, we have to move things around, but it does happen. And again, always focusing on what the ROI and the payback will be. Next slide. So real simple, this is what a heat map looks like as part of a photometric study. It's really just there to indicate, we call it a predator view. It's there to essentially say to you, the end user, wow, I'm going to have some super hot areas. I'm going to have some nice green. Why is that happening there? What's in that facility there? Does that work for me? We definitely like red and green. We don't like other colors on this graph. Next slide. So we talked about incentives. So one thing is we work in all types of facilities. Today we're talking about industrial and warehouse, but we don't look at them any different. We're still going into facilities looking at controls and lighting. And the types of customers, I mean, we've done this, happens to be one of the largest law firms in the world that we did this particular job, but we're a national account provider to Circle K stores. We did the stairwells in the Empire State Building. For Jim, we did the Navy Pier, the garage of the Navy Pier in Chicago. We did McCormick Place, which is the big expedition hall up there. We did the parking garages there. So again, our job is to look at lighting, whether it be industrial and warehouse or some other thing, because there's obviously a commonness to all these things. This particular rebate on this particular slide, on the first go around, we got this customer $796,000 on a rebate. The project was at the first phase of this was about 1.8 million. So they got about 50%. And here we put in over 10,000 controls, 10,000 fixtures and about 8,000 controls. So we're trying to, that's good for the ROI. Next slide, Tasia. So yeah, you'll get something like this from our proposal. The thing we focus on is the net project cost, and the ROI and the rate of return. Most people focus on the cost of a project. So there's a project cost here, $339,000. But what a CFO will look at is they'll look at that payback and that ROI. And it's important to see this in as clear a way as possible, because whether you do a lighting upgrade or not, you'll be paying for the lights by inefficiency. You just won't have them. So here's a way to say, well, can I afford $339,000? Well, most people, if the payback was 1.2 years, a sophisticated CFO would say, yeah, what are we waiting for? And the software we use we give everyone the bottom line data on it, so you can understand our energy calcs. By the way, the energy calcs aren't that hard to understand. It's a wattage save thing. There's a rate you're paying, and there's if you were using a 400 watt metal halide, which is actually burning at 468 watts, and we replace it with a 150 watt LED, which is burning at 150 watt LED, there's that net wattage save. We add controls. We use the industry standards, how to establish that. There's your calculation. And that doesn't even bring in maintenance. Next slide. So implementation is critical. After we've done all the things and we present something and you go on a go-ahead project, we've got to get the product to the site. We've got to then install it in a proper way that keeps the facility running. You're not going to stop your business for us. That's why we often work at night at no real extra cost for night. Our crews are there to install as quickly and efficiently as they can. And at the end of the day, we work with the people on site to figure out how we'll work within the plant to prevent and the warehouse to prevent any downtime. And it is turnkey. We take the fixtures down, we remove them, we recycle them, we put the new fixtures up, and all along we're speaking with whoever the team leader is. And of course, we add the controls and commission those as well based on house rules. Based essentially, we can guide you what you should do, but you have a say in how we'll initially set them, and then we'll train you on using them if you ever want to make changes again, and they're easily changed. Next slide. So, here's talked about some customers. This is a 3PL warehouse company. I think we've done 5 or 6 of their warehouses already. This is actually this particular facilities in Memphis, and it's part of something called the Old Memphis Depot. It's a 4.5 million square foot property. We've probably done a couple million of it already. And Nikki's is actually, we were brought in by Colliers, which is obviously a large real estate management firm. But again, the key for us is those are true quotes. We have lots of customer references. Our job is to make this as easy a process as possible, save money, easily commissionable, changeable applications, environments, and literally get in and get out and really, make your facilities much better. There's a lot of people in the LED lighting world. I would challenge that they spend as much time as we do on the proper selection of product. And that's a big thing, because we're putting a product in with controls that isn't going to last 2 years, 5 years. Our expectation is, irregardless of what a warranty is, and most of our warranties are 10 years now, these are long life assets that are going to last 15 or 20 years, and they'll still be pretty efficient even down the road. The advancements in LED have been pretty fantastic, but like most things, the lumen per watt or the efficiency or effectivity of the product is slowing. So you're not going to see a doubling of performance like we saw in the early days. I mentioned in 2012, we had product that was probably 60 lumens per watt. We're now, for high bay fixtures, closer or exceeding 200 lumens per watt. So that's been the advancement. That's how we're getting more efficiency. And again, we've addressed your work environment, safety, cost, consumption, and these are the things you should get out of it. One last point I would say is, we also do, when we get involved in a project and we do a little sort of vetting to understand this is something you want to entertain, we come out and do this professional grade audit, and we hand you this sort of roadmap, and we don't charge you for it. Now, of course, we have to understand that it's something you're really looking to do, and then we hand it towards you. And it's one of the best investments you can make, at least that first step. Next slide.
Nice. Thank you, Jim, for bringing those insights that the world has been seeing outside for the last 5 years, like the controls, the rebates that you can get with all those data that you have and all of those. So I think the team has got insights, and they've taken away some learnings from what's present outside. Moving on to the second thing that we wanted to talk about is renewable energy sources that we have in terms of lithium ion and lead acid. So we have seen many companies talking about they have lead acid, lithium ions, and everything. So what is most efficient, and what are the different kinds that we can talk when we compare both? So few things are energy efficiency. The first thing when you talk is these are lithium ions are more energy efficient and they have higher round trip efficiency and they consume less energy in charging and discharging. Whereas when compared to lead acid, it takes up a lot of time to charge and travel and then come back. Whereas lithium ion reduces your charging time so that it's very quick turnaround. And talking about the total cost of ownership, as we all know, going into new technology is going to cost us a lot more than the traditional ones. So a higher upfront cost, but if you see on the flip side, you require many less maintenance, you see savings, you see a lot of lifetime on the battery as you are moving from the traditional ones to the newer ones, advanced technologies. So there are some advantages, even though you have some higher upfront cost. Third one is emission reduction. So if you are using lead acid, there is a lot of emissions by spills or some other things. But lithium ions, when you have lower carbon footprint, they have higher energy efficiency. And when we spoke about SCOPE-1 and SCOPE-2 emissions, which are from the company itself, these can be lowered in terms when you move from lead acid to the lithium ions. Using of such material is very important in your handling MHEs. And obviously, talking about safety perspective, lithium ions have a greater safety when compared to lead acid batteries due to their lower risk of spills and explosions. However, they do require specialized charging stations in the warehouse and must be handled carefully to prevent overheating or damages. So if you look at some of the statistics that's out there when comparing to lithium ion and lead acid, according to US Department of Energy, they were saying lithium ion batteries in material handling equipment is resulting into 30 to 50% reduction in energy cost when you compare it with the lead acid batteries, and almost 40 to 60% reduction in maintenance costs. You don't require a lot of maintenance for the lithium ion, where you see on a lead acid, there is a lot of maintenance required. And another report by European Union Joint Research says that the lithium-ion batteries can result in a 25% reduction in carbon emissions, which we spoke. There is a lot that's coming out of transportation and the warehousing, and so 25% of them can be eliminated when you shift from lead acid to lithium ions. And overall, lithium ion batteries have higher upfront cost, as we already spoke about it, but can offer a very significant benefits in terms of energy savings, energy efficiency, total cost of ownership going forward. So again, just to summarize the benefits we see, we spoke about safety, lead acid, exposure to sulfuric acid and lead gassing, changing batteries, lithium ion, all fully enclosed, no battery charges, and everything has been cost savings. On the lead acid, if you see multiple batteries per truck, labor for watering, PMs, changing batteries, need for changing equipment, different time. Life expectancy is looking at 3 to 5 years. But when you look at lithium ion, one battery pack per truck, you don't need multiple, no maintenance, no charging, no changing equipment. Charging uses 16% less energy because it's very quick from the grid than lead acid. Life expectancy is like 8 to 10 years. So it's double the lead acid. In terms of green, lead acid needs to be disposal of lead and sulfuric acid and degassing, while lithium, no hazardous materials of gassing, and 95% is recyclable and other 5 is incinerated. We spoke about the charging time. It's very less for lithium ion. If you want the number, it's just 2 hours, and for lead acid, it's 16 hours. And maintenance, we saw water changing and everything. Lithium ion, you don't need any maintenance. Productivity, lead acid has slow charge time, slower travel and lifting speeds, so it drops the productivity levels. Whereas the lithium ions, it's super fast, and then you don't need to wait for the charging, fast charging, no watering, little voltage drops. You have a better performance efficiency. On average, you see 25% improvements. But on the flip side, there is new technologies coming out. So we spoke about lead, lithium, and all, but companies are going into hydrogen and fuel cells. So these are the new things coming up. Some of the facts that we wanted to put down here is 30% of the groceries in the United States is being run by hydrogen fuel cells, which is a wow factor there. So companies like Walmart, Kruger are all implementing their MHEs into fuel cells, where all of your groceries are being picked and shipped. So this boosts your productivity, increases by 15% if you want to put a number. less charging time, very cost effective, can handle extreme temperatures. If you have questions like, does it work in a colder temperatures? Does it work in extreme hot? So it works in all temperatures, can meet the needs of any sized facility. There is a downside in it. Any facility with less than 24 clips, it doesn't have a good ROI when you have a hydrogen fuel cells. But anything greater than 40, you're good. Growing commercial adoption, decreased carbon footprint, greenhouse gases, that's the main thing. You can almost reduce it by 80%. So if you want to take an example, some of the examples, like a 16,000 square feet of space savings. You don't need a charging stations like you have for lead and lithium ions. A lot of the charging station space is being reduced, almost 16,000 square feet, and you save almost $1.2 million in terms of savings on a typical 200 forklifts facility. When you have a 40 forklift facility, when you compare it with lead acid and lithium ion, $245,000 savings when you compare it with lithium, and 600,000 savings with lead acid. Flip side, 100 forklifts, you have 100 forklifts in a facility, you see $1.2 million savings when you compare it with lead, you change to fuel cells, and $600 when you have lithium to fuel cells. So a lot of savings and a lot of changes and a lot of productivity increase with your fleet. So there are different options out there. So hydrogen fuel cells is the coming up future. So take a look at those. Next one. Having efficient heating and cooling inside your facility is very important during certain changes in temperatures in the globe right now. And during winter, insulating your warehouse lead to money, and heating, you have to heat your entire insulated so that no cold is being coming into the facility, so that you don't need to spend a lot of money on heating the entire facility. So have a good insulation. And during summer, having large industrial sized fan, which can circulate air right throughout the warehouse is important. You see the picture, there are big air fans, and having the zones where you don't have air, having those also ventilated and having those fans is important. Cool roofs, reflective paints that prevent from sun rays from being absorbed, and different kinds of things that you can do. Having plants on your roofs. I've seen companies having plantation on top of their roof so that the heat is not being drawn into the warehouse and eliminates all of the heat. So the last two topics that we wanted to talk about is reduce, reuse, and recycle, and eliminating the waste that companies are producing and generating in terms of corrugate or plastic wraps or different kinds of things. So now we'll have Jim Randazzo to talk about different initiatives and different things that we have seen over the past few years and where we are heading towards in terms of reducing and recycling. Jim, over to you.
Thank you, Tasia. Hi, I'm Jim Randazzo. I've worked for PacSmart in the packaging, machinery, and supply business for 38 years. And two things I want to focus on today are what we refer to as in-the-box packaging. Many people receive one of two things typically when they order something via e-commerce. It's either paper or plastic. We represent a company by the name of Ranpak, and Tasia, if you want to start the video. We have, this is one of approximately 20 different machines that can automatically dispense paper, which can be used for void filling, wrapping, cushioning, as well as blocking and bracing. So it really kind of entails everything you could possibly need to do to protect your product in the box. We compete, but we also sell, in some instances, air pillows, which is very, very common as well. But what Ranpak and this paper product does for you is it gives you a product that is 100% curbside recyclable, which is really important because we try to marry up common products. Most people ship in a corrugated box. This material stays with the box when it gets recycled. So there's no separation that needs to take place. It's 100% biodegradable. It's 100% renewable. And it, like I said, it makes that whole recycling process so much easier. And it's extremely effective packaging material. I know you're having an issue with getting the video launched, right?
Yes.
But this particular machine automatically dispenses the material directly into the box. So it's a very, very good labor savings mechanism as well. because a lot of people, if they're not using an automated system, they would be doing this by hand. They might want to use paper and they would choose to pull, tear, crumple it up and put it in a box. We take all of that manual labor out of it and automate this. Another key component to this is there is no capital investment in this system. We place these machines and only sell and service the consumable at no additional cost. So it makes it a little bit easier from an implementation standpoint, as it also is completely an open-end deal. Since there is no capital with this, we can move machines in and out. If you were using one style of machine this year and your product changed, we can move over to a different style machine. But it's, like I said, very, very effective. And not quite sure why the video, there we go. It's a little short video. I'll kind of walk you through it. Yeah, if you just kind of jump ahead there just a little bit. My apologies, little technical difficulties. Here, this kind of showing we have these bundles of paper that get loaded into this cart, which allows us to load a tremendous amount of material on the front end to keep the process moving forward. And you can see this machine is adjustable in 3 different speeds, but it's typically over a conveyor like this, foot pedal operated. We can also run it on what we refer to as an EDS mode, where it'll dispense a specific amount of material. If you really want to control your costs, you could say you want this to spit out 6 feet of material. We'll put that in each and every box. We also have fully automated systems for large volume customers. This material can actually be automatically dispensed into the box, and then it can be tamped down mechanically without the need of a human doing that. So we have everything from the simple basic machines up to full auto implementation. Again, product is 100% recyclable, it's 100% biodegradable, and 100% renewable, and very, very clean. So paper cost is usually, in most instances, less expensive than air pillows. Paper's faster than air pillows. Most air pillow dispensing systems still require a lot more human intervention, where they have to pull them, they have to tear them at the perforations and place them into the box. So paper is also very flexible. Like I mentioned, it's cushioning, it's void fill, it's wrapping. Airbags don't really give you all of that. They are really a void fill product, and they can puncture and deflate in shipment. I don't know if you've ever experienced that when you open a box from Amazon. Sometimes those pillows are deflated. And then paper, of course, is more sustainable. Paper is a readily recycled product. If you received an air pillow or any sort of plastic film in the box, the only way that you can recycle that is to take it to your local grocer. They're the only ones that will take it. Most people aren't willing to always do that. They would love to put it at the curb. This gets recycled with the corrugated box. Next slide, please. Now I'm going to jump into the second most common thing that people call upon us to review with them, which is stretch film. Now, stretch film is one of the most efficient ways to secure your product to the pallet. Years ago, many people would use strapping. It's very labor intensive. It's not all inclusive. It doesn't touch every one of the boxes on a pallet. So stretch film is here to stay. It's so efficient. It's so low cost, but yet many people don't really understand why they're buying a particular film and if it's proper for their application. So we go out and we do a comprehensive analysis, their film versus our proposed Paragon Nexus film. This is one instance where we recently did this for someone. The gray bars that you see here are their existing film that they're using. And they wanted us to try 2 new films. So these are both ours. The blue and the green are both our Nexus products. So what we do is we come in and we wrap a pallet using their existing film on their existing equipment in the presence of their own team, so they can witness and see all of this. And then we put our film on and do the same thing without any adjustments to the machine whatsoever. So what you'll see here is we take containment readings off of the load. Containment simply means how well the film is holding your product to the pallet. It's very, very, very important. If you have that proper containment, you have very low risk of that load shifting during shipment, thus causing damage. So you can see here the containment numbers were in the top, middle, and bottom were far less than either one of our films. And then the loads per roll, which means there's less changeover from the actual having to reload the stretch wrapper. So there's less human intervention as well. And the ounces used, and this is the key component. This is really what we refer to as miles per gallon in the stretch film world. They were using 4.8 ounces of film, and with they ultimately are most interested in this the green option, which is our Nexus 40 gauge film, 2.7 ounces of film. Takes their cost from 59 cents to 38 cents. That's a huge percentage savings, 36%, as you can see over here. So this was just one customer, $38,000 a year savings, and 665 rolls less used every year. Next slide, please. This is one of the machines that we sell a lot of. It's a RoboPack robot. We sell traditional turntable machines, which you see in the background, but I wanted to show this today because this machine is extremely efficient. You don't have to take the load to the wrapper. You take the wrapper to the load. It wraps pallets of really any configuration. It knows no limits with regard to width and length. This machine is wrapping up to 86 inch. We have a 110 inch wrap height machine available. And I've sold hundreds of these machines across North America. This machine is capable of stretching film up to 400%. Not many machines can do that. There aren't many films that can even do that nowadays. But we have these machines. We can do demonstrations in plant for people because people always like to kick the tires, so to speak. And all these applications in most cases are very, very different. So this allows us to bring it out, set it up, do a little demonstration, and see if it's a good fit for them. If it's not, like I said, we have any of those machines you see in the background there, what we call rotary arms to the right, traditional turntable machines to the left. Next slide, please. So this is the reduction in carbon footprint that we received off of that analysis that we did. Just this one customer saved all of this, 41,564 pounds of CO2 less every year, almost 24,000 pounds of less plastic being used, 160 cubic yards of landfill space, 76 pounds of CO2. Look at the electricity saved on this. This is just one customer. And then the paper core waste, that every roll of stretch film is on a paper core. Almost 2,400 pounds less used of paper. Next slide, please. This is kind of the end result. They're wrapping 700 pallets per day. The loads weigh about 1,100 pounds. Those are the configuration of the pallets. The type of equipment is on the right side that they're running this on. Next slide, please. And then this is the proof in the pudding. This tells them in column 1, their current film that they're using, columns 2 and 3, the two films that we presented to them either would work. So there'd be no reason in the world they wouldn't go to the lowest cost one because they both outperformed what they're currently using. I'm not going to go over each and every one of these. You can see this. You can review it after the webinar, but they're real numbers. This, like I said, we always do this in the presence of the team who we're trying to help, because we want to explain it to them because it's not something that they do each and every day. That's our job. This is our level of expertise. So we're really looking for folks that want to surrender a bit to the process and become educated on how to truly buy film and reduce your carbon footprint and costs, of course. Next slide, please.
Nice.
There we go.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Yep, it was a good insight on what different kinds of material for the films and how much number of savings that you see, and also reduction in terms of carbon dioxide that you can see. Awesome. We are coming to the end. So to summarize, we have 5 different points to talk about. Switching to electric or hybrid power forklift is one of the things that we spoke about, and where you can see lower emissions and having less internal combustions, and you can reduce your scope-1 emissions. Either you go with the lithium ion comparing to lead or lead acid, or going into fuel cells. Using energy efficient lighting, John spoke about it, all of LED lightings and different savings, different metrics, data that you can see, which can eliminate your scope-2 emissions, which is use of electricity and all of those. Implementing a material handling equipment maintenance program, a regular maintenance of all your equipment, either it could be a manufacturing site or if it's a warehouse, regular maintenance using the ones which are efficient is important, so which can eliminate both of the scope-1 and scope-2 emissions and reductions. Implementing a warehouse management system in order to track goods, movement of goods, travel times across the locations, and distance traveled by the material handling equipment, which can reduce a lot of emissions inside the warehouse when you have a good WMS system set up. Optimizing the layout of the warehouse, which is a crucial point. Warehouses can reduce the distance that material handling equipment needs to travel the goods for replenishment or put away, or a lot of different things that you can do. So having a good layout with a good software and with good lighting, good materials, and will all together contribute to a lot of emission reductions and also in a lot of carbon dioxide reduction in the facility. So these are the few things that we want to talk about in this webinar. There are a lot of things that you can do, but you have to start at the starting point and move towards a better future. So I would like to quote this from No Business on a Dead Planet. So think about it, make the changes, start really investing into things that are really important, and then you can see a good planet. So now we look at the poll results that we have, and we are happy to answer any questions that you have. Nice. So the first question that we had was, how many of you have the currently sustainable initiatives underway in these areas? And then we have 0% for anyone who is investing in transportation in terms of miles driven or any other alternatives like EVs or hybrid. But we have seen 50% of them voting to distribution center operations. They have some sustainability initiatives, and 25% of them have employee training programs that they were doing, and 50% of them currently do not have any sustainability initiatives. So I think people who have mentioned no sustainable initiatives have been here. I think they have got some insights on what are the different aspects that you can see in the DC that you can start contributing to or start making changes and thinking about it. Second question we had was about focusing on warehouse distribution center operations. Which initiatives do you have underway? Do you have a recycling program or reducing energy consumption? So we see 25% of them voted for no sustainable initiatives, and almost 50% of them have recycling program, and other 25% have alternative energy sources like solar panels, and they're investing in reduction energy consumption by different LEDs or something. So we see most of them having some initiatives in recycling and energy efficiencies, but there are still quarter of those which do not have any initiatives. So I think there are some things that you can start off, like starting off with lighting or starting off with some packaging materials that saves you money and saves you in terms of different things. Awesome. Those are the poll results. I think I've got some insights. Any questions that we have got? Awesome. Okay. So this is the end of the webinar for the month of April. So next month we have Alpine is doing a May 17th, 2023. We have a webinar which talks about people and process propel success at Monad's global warehouse operations. Monad is one of our customer at Florida. So they're going to talk about their success with the people and processes in the global warehouse operations. It brings to an end. Happy Earth Day is tomorrow. So start thinking about it, make investments and everything. Thank you. And again, thanks, John and Jim, for joining and giving your insights about LEDs and packaging and different aspects.